he tapped me and he said, "Follow Uncle. Uncle has another gift for you. It's your birthday." And of course, you're a little kid. You're all like, "Oh, another gift." Um, Within a couple of minutes of that, I knew that the gift was not something I wanted. It was something that terrified me.
What is the thing or things that you've had to quit in order to become successful?
I certainly had to quit
thinking it was too big.
The person that I was to get here.
being afraid that I was going to make mistakes. I quickly learned that the road to success is paved with failure.
Would you rather go on a dinner date or a shopping spree with your partner?
Oh, now that's a good question, Sarah. You know why? Because it depends on my mood. It depends on the day. Um, but I think I'm gonna go with the dinner date. I'm not really a big shopper.
Okay. For Valentine's, would you rather get candy or flowers?
Again, the mood. Well, it depends what kind of candy. But you know what? Flowers are always nice, and I like original flowers. I don't like the everyday red rose or, I like the
I
different
love that.
bouquet. So flowers, I'll go with
Nice.
flowers.
Would you rather spend a vacation week in Alaska or at the jungle in Brazil?
Alaska, 100%. And I'm working on booking a cruise for Alaska. So
Oh, yeah. I've never been, but I've heard it's beautiful.
it was one of my grandma's dreams, and my grandma passed away in November, so I want to do something for her and go to Alaska. And I heard Alaska is a beautiful place for peace and serenity. So
I've seen pictures, you can't tell. Well, thank you guys for being here again with us at another episode of Successful Quitters, a podcast that highlights the things that people have had to quit in order to become successful in their arena. And today we have a very special guest. She is an international award-winning author, a speaker, a humanitarian. In 2020, she became the International Secretary of the Human Rights and Social Justice Federation. In 2020, she also received the Honorary Doctorate Award for Human Rights from the United Noble Rescue Services. She is the founder and creator of Miss Liz Tea Parties. I love that. Tea Times and host of Tea Time with Miss Liz, making a difference one cup at a time. Miss Liz is spilling tea to bring awareness that we can actually make a difference for humanity. In over 40 plus countries, her guests come in virtually from around the globe, touching over 75 subjects ranging from abuse, grief, mental health, empowerment, organizations, authors, actors, and leaders. Welcome, very welcome, Elizabeth Jean Olivia Gagnon.
thank you so much, Sarah, for having me here. It's a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Also known as Miss Liz, which is what we are going to use. Miss Liz, let's go back to the beginning of all of this. Tell us what life was like at 5 years old.
Oh, well, I'm going to go back one more year. At the age of 4 is when the tea came into my life. It's also the year that I received a good tea and a bad tea. And the way that I share my story is my Oma gave me the tea of life. She told me to sit, recharge, reflect, and release. And at that age, you don't know those words, you don't understand it. But as I got older, I realized she was giving me a tea of life. And it was always to sit and gather with people and listen and take that moment to understand why people are the way they are. Not to be so quick to judge, all walks of life have a story. They all have a different flavor, a different blend. But also at the age of 4, I was abused by my uncle for many years. He was prosecuted and then released and reoffended again. And at the age of 14, I lost my daughter to stillborn. my daughter Ashley. Uh, so the
Miss
sexual
Liz,
abuse.
oh, I'm sorry, and we'll definitely go back to this time, but because this is not a thing that everyone speaks so openly about, I definitely would want to go back to the 4-year-old you and kind of go a little more in detail how this happens, because the people that your family members are the people that you trust.
Yeah.
So some parents will leave you with family members thinking that you're going to be safe, that you're going to be okay. And sometimes it's the father, it's not even the uncle, the one that harms the kid. So how were you were left at the home with him, or how did this happen?
No, the night that the first offense was on my 4th birthday. It was my birthday gift. That's what he told me. He was giving me a birthday gift. We went and visited my aunt and uncle and my grandmother at the time. They all lived together. And my parents and us went over and we ended up staying the night. And we had a birthday party for myself and all of that. And in the middle of the night, me and my sister, we were sleeping on the pull-out sofa. And he tapped me and he said, "Follow Uncle. Uncle has another gift for you. It's your birthday." And of course, you're a little kid. You're all like, "Oh, another gift." Within a couple of minutes of that, I knew that the gift was not something I wanted. It was something that terrified me. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand how he was saying that it was a gift, that I was his favorite girl, and we needed to celebrate, and this is how people celebrate when they're 4 years old. So every time there was somebody else in my family, a sibling or a cousin or something, I always feared the age of 4 with them if he was doing it to them as well. Um, I found out that I was the only one that he did offend. Uh, I'm not sure why. I was a quiet child. My brothers and sisters were rebels. They were loud. I was that quiet kid that was always in the corner, coloring or humming, and just doing my own little thing. Um,
How heartbreaking for yourself, and I'm assuming for your parents. So this happened, and then how long did it take for your parents to find out that you had gone through this?
my parents, they found out right away, and I got punished for it. My parents were the opposite. They were also abusers. They wanted it hush. What happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. Oh, he didn't mean it. You're overreacting. Maybe you didn't understand. Uncle just wanted to give you a hug, and I was, you know. The next morning, I woke up. My trigger warning for anyone who's listening. My underwear was wet, and I got a spanking because they thought I peed myself. But it was him who had ejaculated all over me. So, um, you know, at the age of 4, you're so innocent and you're so ready for life that within 10 minutes, my whole life changed. I had to grow up. I had to be this big girl. I had to keep this dark, deep secret. And it wasn't just one time, it was all the time. Because mom and dad would just say, you're just overreacting. Uncle just loves you. You're just a special little girl, you don't understand that extra love sometimes is different and that. And it lasted for 9 years. And then he was prosecuted. He received 6 months in jail. And when he came out, my parents had locked me in the apartment and said that they were going to see my uncle. He was being released that day. So they wanted to go and celebrate, or I'm not even sure what they wanted to do. And I was still a child, so I wanted to be with my siblings. So where we lived, my parents lived in the basement and my aunt and uncle lived upstairs at that time in the same building. So I had knocked on the door and I said to my aunt had answered the door and she said, he's here, right? And I said, I know, but I want to be with my brother and sister. Like, why am I being punished, So they let me in, and within 2 days of him being released, he reoffended me again. And I never told anybody the second time because I was just like, you guys never believed the first time, and you guys are celebrating that he went to jail for hurting your daughter, and you guys want to spend time with him instead of protecting me. So he
Who did you tell the first time? How was it that he ended up in jail?
A school teacher. Actually, a boy at school wanted to be my puppy love boyfriend, first crush. I like her. She's cute. And he came to kiss me on the cheek, and I was like, because it wasn't only my uncle that was abusing me, there was multiple family members that were abusing me. I was the toy in the family. But my uncle was the one that had impregnated me. And a couple of them had got arrested and went to jail. Some of them got away with just a warning, stay away, restraining orders. The justice system's really messed up, right? So then when my uncle came out and reoffended again, I got pregnant. And my stepmom at the time said, I think Liz is pregnant. Liz is getting a round belly. Oh, she's just eating too much. She's not. So then my dad started noticing that I was rounding. I wasn't becoming chunky. I was becoming round. I was like a baby. And my dad said, "Oh, well, we're gonna just have to do something about that." And he says, "Oh, well, just say it's a boy from school that got you pregnant." And I was like, Daddy, I'm not sleeping around, you know. So I did say that to a lot of people, that it was a boy that I kind of liked, and him and his friends came in and they had beat me up because they were mad that I had accused this boy of getting me pregnant when they knew it wasn't true, and I knew it wasn't true. And that's how Ashley was miscarried, because of the beating. I was pregnant and she was born stillborn. But that's how they found out that my uncle was reoffending the second time. And the family never did anything. They just kind of put it under the carpet and, okay, well, we'll just send her away for a while. We'll just get the secrets away. So they had sent me away to a girls' boarding school, kind of a group home, and there was like a prison just down the street. I felt like I was being punished for, not doing anything that, I was just obeying and respecting the adults. So.
And you were 14 at that time, correct?
Yeah. And when I lost Ashley, when I was round, she started to move because she was 5.5 months, and she was moving in my belly. And I was telling my mom this, and my mom says, "Oh, you just got bugs in your belly. Like, you're just full of bugs. Like, you know." So it was really rough for me growing up, because my parents were really cold towards me, because I had come out and said, like, things are happening. And then the school got involved, and, Children's Aid got involved and things like that, because I had come out and told the truth. And I was just like, well, I just wanted to stop. Like, I want people to stop hurting me. So it was a hard life. But I look back now and I grieve my little girl, because I wasn't allowed to speak of her, because of who her father was. But when my father passed away in 2016, I shared her story in a book, in my first chapter in an anthology. And a lot of the family members said, "Oh, here we go. She's losing her mind again. She's talking about this baby that never existed." Because back in 1988, when I lost Ashley, stillborn, you don't get a birth certificate because it's not a live birth. The baby is deceased, right? So you had three options. You either cremated the baby, you threw the baby in the trash, or you donated it to science. And my dad refused to pay to have it cremated. And he said, well, the trash, she's already trash, so we don't need to add any more to the trash. And he said, well, I'll just donate it to science. And then if she ever wants to go see her baby, she can go see her at a science museum. So it was a lot of mental abuse in my family, a lot of trauma, a lot of, why is everyone so angry at me? Why does everyone want to hurt me? And I just got to a point where I said, okay, this is who I'm supposed to be. And let's just hope that I can get through it every day, wake up and hope that today is going to be the day that it ends, the day that it's going to finish. But it didn't end there, Sarah, because at the age of 18, I got pregnant with my oldest daughter, who is alive. And my father gave me the option of getting married or taking my baby and putting it into adoption. And because I had lost Ashley, I was not allowing them to take my baby. So I got married. But on my wedding day, my dad had said, well, your husband can have you when he gives me $2. And I thought, well, okay, it was a joke because my family was just so sick and they were demented and, the mental abuse was there all my life. So I thought, oh, it's just a joke. And he literally waited for $2. And once I got the $2, then my dad had gave me to my ex-husband. He's my ex-husband now. And at that time, I didn't process everything because I wanted to keep the baby. I wanted my baby. I didn't care about married. I didn't care. And I didn't even like the guy. It was just, you start to rebel because nobody's listening to you. So you start to act out and you do things. And then when I got pregnant, I was like, oh, I'm not losing this one. Like, this is my baby and that. And to find out that my ex-husband was a really sick monster. I survived over 600 beatings in a 16-year marriage. He poisoned me. He stabbed me. He shot me. That's how I'm half deaf because he played this game of, they call it Russian roulette, where there's one bullet in the gun and just kept saying, oh, well, is this one going to get you? And because of the pow from the gun, it blew my eardrums and has made me partially deaf now.
Miss Liz, did you ever think at any age that it was your fault? Did they ever convince you of feeling like maybe I'm doing something to make these men want me or treat me the way they do?
I honestly thought I was this dark shadow that everybody was supposed to just hurt. And every time I heard the word love, I knew hurt was coming with it. Because that's what my uncle had said to me when I was 4. I love you. Uncle loves you. This is your birthday gift. And when I hear the word love from anybody, even to this day, Sarah, I'm just like, ooh, what's coming? Like, even with my own children today, where they're adults and they say, Mommy, I love you. I'm like, oh, okay. What do they want from me? Because of such a young age and being the trauma over and over again of people saying they love me, but when they love me, they hurt me. And then it's in my mind, I'm the crazy one. I'm the one overreacting. I'm the one that's not allowing people to love me and take care of me. And that there was a lot of mental game. And I say this all the time to everyone I speak to, Sarah, I would rather a beating than the mental abuse. The bruises go away. The scars, they cover up. You can put the makeup on. You can cover those scars up. But the mental abuse, it plays on you. It plays on you. And then as an adult, you grow up and you're like, ooh, how do I get over this? How do I trust anybody? How do I get out there? How do I make a change in my life? What steps do I need to take? Is the rest of the world going to do this to me too? So I'm very guarded. I'm an observer and I analyze everything. When I go into a room, if I do any conferences or any speaking, my first thing I do is I go into a room and I scope the room. And I know, okay, safe, not safe, safe, give that one a try. I can feel the energies. And then I will go to the energy where I feel comfortable. Where I don't feel comfortable, I will try to avoid at all costs.
Yeah, and this is so powerful and important that you're sharing your story because it's so crucial for parents to understand that 1 minute can change a child's life forever. Because you're not a teenager anymore. You're not a child anymore. You're a mature woman. And even now, things that happened many years ago still affect you. And what I'm wondering is, do you think your parents ever regretted what happened?
I don't know if they've ever regretted it. I don't think they've ever taken ownership of it.
Mm,
Even when my father passed, a lot of my siblings, because I was the furthest one, I moved away from everybody in order to get strong. I needed to get away from my family. I love my family, but I love them from a distance. Um, and my love for my family is completely different than the love they have for me. Uh, I have the genuine love. They might love me in their own weird, unique way. I'm not sure, you know. But then I try to understand them, Sarah. Is it because it's generational cycle? Did they go through it? Did they have the same treatment? You know?
yeah,
And then I look at my grandparents. All of my grandparents and my great grandparents, they weren't like that with me. But that doesn't
yeah,
mean that they weren't were like that with their own children. You know? Uh,
yeah. And there comes a point where someone also is the one to break those chains, which happens in different areas of people's lives. But there comes a generation and a person that's brave enough to say enough. This is never happening again to any people that I love or care for, and I'm going to protect everybody else. Did you become very protective because
oh
now
yeah,
you have your own family?
I became very protective of my kids to the point that I didn't think my ex-husband would hurt his own kids. I put that faith, right? We trust people we love so much that we're all taught stranger danger, but we're not taught family danger. You know,
Mm,
the danger was not outside of my home. The danger was inside my home, and it made it really
yeah,
hard because I thought, okay, he's only hurting me. He would never hurt my kids. He would never hurt his kids. That's how I thought. I'm the bad one. I'm the bad seed. Everybody's hurting me. Nobody else is going to hurt anybody else. It's only Liz that's getting hurt. And then to go to find out that my kids were being hurt, and that was it. I was just like, you know what? I'm out of here. Like, I got to get away from this family because this family is broken. This family it's sick. It needs help. And my family is what happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. And that's just the way we love you. We love differently than
mm,
other people do. Uh, you know, or it's you don't understand what real love is. I hear that all the time from my family, and I'm just like, the
mm.
love that you guys have, I don't want it. I, you
Yeah.
know,
It's not safe. It's not good. It's not healthy. Miss Liz, were you able to forgive your parents?
I had to forgive them. I had to forgive everyone in my life in order to get to where I am today, Sarah. And a lot of my family, they believe that I don't because I speak, right? I speak of the past. I speak of what has
Yeah.
happened. And my family, because they haven't taken accountability and responsibility, they feel that I'm blaming them. I'm complaining. I'm playing victim. I'm not doing any of that. What I'm doing is I'm breaking that cycle. I'm breaking that voice of silence, you know? And until they heal themselves, until they understand what real love is themselves, they will always think that way, right? That I'm that bad seed, I'm that whistleblower, I'm the black sheep, you know? Um, but yeah, I had to forgive them, Sarah, because where I am today, I would have never been had I stayed where I was.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't speak about it, then many other kids are going through the same thing. And it is so sad because every kid has the potential to be so many things. And it is their right to be able to become who they really are meant to become. And when these things happen, it just stops everything that they could have reached from happening. So it's very sad, and it's something that parents need to hear because a lot of times people are just not aware, and they find out once it's over with, once it's done. Like we said with you, it just took a little bit of time on a birthday, on a visit to someone else's house. I mean, a lot of times we just let kids go visit a friend or a cousin, and we're not watching.
Yeah.
And that's very, very, very unsafe. So you finished high school?
No,
Were you able to finish high school?
no. I was half a credit away from high school. I had got pregnant with
Hmm.
my oldest daughter, got married. I did go back to school to try and get it, and I kept failing the math. I'm 4 points short. I've even reached out to them and said, like, come on, I've tried so many times, give me that bonus point for trying, for traveling, for, pushing. But it's also a lesson that we don't need that grade 12. It's good to have education, but you also could be somebody without it. Educate your mind and get aware. Do your research. Just because you don't have the diploma doesn't mean that you can't be somebody in the future. Doesn't mean that you can't be a business leader. It doesn't mean that you can't be a doctor or a lawyer, because there are people that look at it and say, okay, well, how can we help you? How can we bypass this? If you have the skills and you have the mindset and determination, you can do anything. And that's what I
I
have
love
done.
this. Yeah, especially nowadays where a lot of people are homeschooling their kids. That's how you know that you don't necessarily have to go to school. Like you said, education is very, very important. However, you can self-educate. So if you want to grow in any area, the information is out there. It's 2024, lots of resources available for everybody. Um, and but when in high school, what kind of teenager were you? Were you outgoing? Did you have a lot of friends? Did you keep to yourself? How were you?
Um, for a while, I was very quiet. I was very to myself. Then I became rebellious. I started to
Mm,
drink, um, and to the point where I would black out. I just thought, okay, well, I could, just end my life if I just drink the bottle, because all the demons are still there. uh, you know, all of what has happened as a little girl. And I matured a lot faster because of the abuse, because of sexual abuse. My breasts grew because of playing with them and that. So I became really big, and I had to have a surgery done because I became so big. Um, you know, and I got my period at the age of 7, where period girls are usually getting their periods at the age of 12 and 14. So now I'm in early menopause. I'm like 10 years ahead of all the girls that are my age, and I'm going through
wow.
stuff that, my mother's going through, and I'm just like, so my body had to process, my mind had to process, everything had to process
Yeah.
in an advanced way, you know, and and I didn't get a chance to be a child. I didn't, really remember too much of my childhood. Um, what I remember is all the dark stuff, and it gets heavy sometimes, when that's all you have to look back on is abuse and name
Yeah.
calling, and you know and the smells, and like certain smells. If I walk into a certain room or something, or if man's wearing a certain kind of cologne, I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I'm safe here. And that man's a total
Mm,
stranger, but it's just the smell. It's, you know, it's just the way a person will turn. I have severe CPTSD because of it. I'm very jumpy. If you come too quiet behind me, I'll jump, I'll scream, you know, uh, because that's how they were. They were sneaky. And a lot of my abuse was done at nighttime, so I don't sleep at nighttime.
mm,
I sleep when the sun comes up because I
mm.
feel safe. A lot of people will, Miss Liz, you're up late. Ugh, yeah, trust me, guys. I try to go to bed,
Now I
but
understand it. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I know you're saying that they were all abusive when growing up, but what was specifically your relationship with your mom? Because girls, we get a lot of things from a lot of information that we need in order to progress in life as women through our moms. What was when you had questions, what were her answers like, and what was it like to be her daughter?
me and my mom weren't close. Uh, my mom was very mean, very cold towards me. She was the one that used to call me garbage all the time, trash. I don't know if it was because she was angry at me. She was young at the same time, having a child, you know, because I look like, I'm not sure, Sarah. There was a lot of hate from that woman. And now that she's older, she's giving me the love, and I'm angry.
Mm.
I'm just like, why couldn't you give that to me when I was a little girl? Why now? And I feel like because of what I'm doing now, and because I have all these eyes on me, and because I speak with different people, and I have that voice now, my mom is proud of me, and that's weird to me. Like, you're proud that I'm talking about my pain. You're proud of me that I had to write about my pain. You, you know, so it's really mixed messages. I don't know. Some people have said it's gaslighting, it's narcissistic. I just, I try to understand her, and I just can't.
Yeah.
But I'm civil with her.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing, Sarah, I have done with everyone who has hurt me. I will not give them what they gave me. I will not be mean to them.
Mm.
I will not call them names. I will just pull away. I will distance myself.
Yeah. And for the people that might have gone through what you went through and are unable to maybe feel better about themselves or move on, and even though you can never get rid of that because these are deep scars, do you think that writing, sharing, do you think that those things help you, if not heal, maybe calm the pain?
Writing has saved my life. I am here
Mm.
because I wrote. Put that pen to the paper, and I was able to voice it. People didn't want to hear with their ears. Well, they heard with their eyes by reading the words, feeling the pain through the words, understanding the story through the words. Writing has been my lifesaver. It's like I'm in the middle of the ocean and that lifesaver comes out to save me. Mine is the pen and paper. That has saved me.
Yeah. And how did you start it writing? What was it that made you go, I'm gonna write a book?
Well, I've always been a writer. I always was able to jolt my emotions and feelings on. I always had journals. Growing up, everybody
Mm.
read them, and I'd get in trouble for what I wrote because I would say, like, I don't like this person, and this person needs to stop hurting me, and all of that. And then I started writing poetry. And then when I got with my ex-husband, well, he got rid of my poetry because that was something that I enjoyed doing. And when I got divorced, I went back to writing, and I started writing poetry again. But what got me writing in books and getting published was this one lady that, from the universe, I swear the universe brought this woman into my life. She had a book called Hear Me. And I
Mm.
wanted to be heard all my life. I wanted someone to listen to me and understand that I was hurting. The people were hurting me. So I reached out to this woman and I said, your book, your book, I need this book. Like, what is this book about? And her story was about being sexually abused at the age of 5, not knowing what this book was all about. So I knew it was the universe putting us two together. And then she started a collection of anthologies. But she first started and put a call out for grandmothers who had lost their grandbabies from death because her granddaughter had passed away.
Mm.
And then she wasn't getting a lot of people that were reaching out. So she said, well, what about different stories? So then she put it out there. Well, let's get some different stories out there of people overcoming things, people that have, lived. So then I reached out to her right away and I was like, Brenda, do you think my story is good? Like, do you think I can do this? And she's like, absolutely. So I said, okay. So she said, well, I need so many words for each chapter. And she said, like, don't worry about the rough draft because we're going to have editors. We're going to have people that work with it and everything. Well, I had just wanted to get everything out, Sarah. And we were only supposed to send in 1,500 words. I sent in over 9,000. She's like, you got your own book here. and then she said, you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to break it up into chapters because she said, I know that this is not going to be my only anthology. I know there's going to be a book 2. So let's get a little bit more into the next one. And then she said, oh, there's a book 3, Liz. I was like, absolutely, let's do book 3. And then there was a book 4, and I was like, okay, here, let's go. So I had written in all of her 4 books, and it actually helped me because the 4th book was the full circle. She actually got me to share my whole life in 4 chapters. And it actually helped me to write with other people. And then other people heard my story in book 1, and they were like, well, do you want to be my anthology? You have a powerful story. I was like, oh, I don't know. I can't read the same thing because I know that that's copyright. You can't do any of that. So I said, well, I know there's a story in me. Let me change it up. Like, what is your book about? Like, what is the format about? And so I got my story into 8 other anthologies in total. And then last year, I wanted to do my own. I said, can I do it? I don't know if I can do this. And I said, I want to be different because I'm so different growing up. And I said, I don't know if the world is ready for my kind of different. Because growing up, I was always told, oh, you can't do anything. You're never going to be anybody. And I said, well, you know what? I've written in 8 books. Why can't I write my own? Like, let's just go for it. So, and that's what I did. It took me 9 months, and I wrote 3 books, and I wrote the TEA books.
That's quick.
Yeah. And it kind of just came out. And I wanted it to be playful because I didn't have that little girl in me, the childhood. And I always thought Alice in Wonderland when I was a little girl that they made the movie about me. For the longest time, I was like, how did they know about me? How did they know that I go to this other land? Every time I was getting abused, I would just pull away and I would just pretend I was with the dragons and the unicorns and the fairies. And Alice in Wonderland was a bunny rabbit going through the hole. And I was like, how did they know about my life? Like, and as I got older, everybody was, that movie's not about you, girl. And I was like, well, it resonates with me. So it is my movie, you know? So,
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted my books to be. I wanted them to be playful, like going through and sliding down the ladder and climbing up and, you know, and wiggling and dancing to the next chapter. And what I did with my book is instead of saying chapter 1, chapter 2, I did T1, T2, T3, T4. So you have all different kind of flavors of teas, right? I made it playful. And then I took you with words because words is what we put on paper. Words is what my grandma gave me at the age of 4. So I was like, I need words. And my grandma was the one that called me Miss Liz. That's where Miss Liz comes from. My Oma, when I was little, she called me Miss Liz. Miss Liz, come here. And I knew, I was like, oh, okay, you better just move.
I did something wrong. I love something about tea makes me feel like it's peaceful time. It's time to share the good news. It's time to, it kind of makes me feel like it's that time of a day for a celebration.
Yeah.
For an open celebration and pastries and in my mind it also feels like Alice in Wonderland time. So what about your grandma? How was she?
My
Since
grandma,
you've
all of my grandparents, Sarah, they were amazing with me. But my Oma from Germany was the lady that gave me my tea. And then on my dad's side, my grandma, she was the lady that was always interested in my tea times. What I do with the podcast. Who did I have? Why do you think that person came to you? What story do you think they wanted to give you? Why did they come to your table and not the other person's table? She always asked me these questions, and I'd be like, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe they just like tea. Maybe they just want to get their story out there. I don't know." And she's like, "No, we're not doing that. We got to get digger. We got to go into the pot. We got to understand why these people are coming to you." And I said, "Oh, okay." So she would make me, you know, understand each of my guests, and we would have that conversation. And she passed in November. She was 97, and right up until she passed, she always asked me about the tea, you know. So
yeah, but how was either or there with you? Because you spoke about one of them when you were 4.
Yeah,
which
and that's
one was
my
it?
Oma that's on that side. She's in the room with us right now. She's on my stand, and my Oma's there, and my gross Oma. And it was my Grossy Oma from Germany that gave me my tea. And
Yeah.
she had this crabapple tree that she had in her yard. And I used to always grab the crab apples, and she used to tell me I was going to get a sore belly. And then I would go and have tea with her. And I was always rushing my tea. And she always told me, would you sit, reflect, recharge, and release? And I was just like, oh, here's those words again. That's all I heard growing up was these words from her. But she came from the war in Germany. And that's what she had to do when she came to Canada. Because she had to sit, reflect, recharge, and release. She had to release that she wouldn't see her parents anymore. She had to recharge a new life, a new beginning. She had to reflect that things were going to be different for her. You know, and it taught me that I had to learn to reflect that my life was going to be hard and that things were going to happen to me that I had no control over. They were not my fault. To release, the releasing and letting go and forgiving was the hardest one for me.
Yeah.
You know, and recharging, self-care, that was hard. I always I felt guilty. Like, how dare I take time for myself? How dare I go and buy myself a hot chocolate or buy myself that candy bar or
Shame on you.
you know, like I was just like, oh, I can't be doing this, you know? And those are things that I encourage everybody now to do is, you know, recharging is not just sitting and recharging the mind by meditating and letting the calmness come in. It's self-care, saying I love me. I am
Yeah.
beautiful. Affirmations. That's self-care. Taking a
Yeah.
walk by yourself, sitting in a restaurant by yourself and not feeling like you need somebody to sit across from you. That is recharging. And it's giving you that moment to say, you know what, you can do this on your own. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it empowers you, and it's really amazing what the feeling you get when you sit and you have a lunch by yourself. You're like, I'm a big girl now. You know, like it's like those pull-ups. You know, when you get out of the diapers, I'm a big girl
Yeah.
now. That's how I feel when I do that. When I go and have lunch by myself, or I just take a walk by myself. I kind of have that song playing in the back of my head. I'm a big girl now. I can do this. You know,
Putting yourself first is
yeah,
very important. When
absolutely.
would you say that this grandma was a little bit of a getaway from everything that was happening, and were you able to share what was happening with you, and was she able to intervene?
She knew what was happening. She couldn't because of the fear. And it wasn't the fear of the family members, it was the fear that she had because she was in the war. And when they spoke up, their lives were taken. It had nothing to do with the
Mm.
fear of the family members disowning her or banning her. It was the fear that she grew up with as a little girl. So she would just encourage me to stay strong and push through it, and it'll stop one day. She used to tell me that all the time. It will stop one day. I swear
Mm.
it will. Um, you know, and she knew that it was going to be hard, and she knew that I needed that quiet time. So we always spent a lot of good quality time together. We talked, we watched wrestling together. She had the biggest crush on wrestlers, and I was like, Grandma, oh my God, they're hurting each other, like they're slamming each other, and she's like, oh no, we got to get into it, and I'd be like, ooh, I don't know. Like she had a rowdy side to her, and then she had a
Yeah.
soft side to her. Um, and she just kind of taught me, like, you know, you got it within you. It's not within me, it's not within them, it's within you. So
Yeah. Miss Liz, how did we go through from all of this into you becoming a humanitarian and getting from where you didn't have to start giving?
honestly, Sarah, I think it's the universe. The universe just knew that I
Mm.
was going to be this change maker. Uh, People started coming into my life that I was questioning all the time, like, me? I only serve tea. I only talk about tea. And you want me to be a peace ambassador? You want me to be an international secretary? You want me to be a director? I don't have the education. I don't have the certificates. Are you sure you want me? You're always asking these questions. And then you're in the back of my mind, the little girl, the inner child in me was saying, try. Stop with, you don't have this, you don't have that, you never did this, you never. Stop it. Just try. Sit at the table. See what you can bring to the table. And if it's not for you, you can always get up and leave the table. And that's how my life has really changed there. I just got the courage to sit at tables and say, okay, what are we doing here? How can I help? What do you need from me? And I always had that creative side. So a lot of people come to me like for posters and marketing and stuff like that. And I was the woman that always took lots of pictures. I took lots of pictures. Picture taking when I was younger. My dad used to buy me a new camera every Christmas. And that was something that I was grateful for him because he at least paid attention to that. He knew that, I like pictures.
Everything you've been sharing is so powerful and interesting. Definitely very giving. Tell us a little bit about your podcast. You've been working very hard on your podcast. You have a lot of information that you're giving others.
Well, my podcast has actually started way before we went to podcast land because all I did was take it to the virtual land. Tea Time actually started in 2015 in my own home. And now it's back in my own home, but in a virtual way. So we went from my home in 2015, then in 2016, 2017, and 2018, we went to the community and we did events there. We had speakers there. So we have like what we're doing on the podcast. And in 2019, we slowly started building up the podcast. I knew something was coming. I didn't know that, COVID was coming or any of that. I just had this feeling that I needed to get online. I needed to start doing things. I didn't even hear of podcasting, and now I'm finding out podcasting was like 20 years even before everybody else thinks it started. So, so in 2020, we launched the first Tea Time. And the first Tea Time was more just for my own mental health. It was just to see if I could have a conversation with somebody. And then it became global within the first season because I was a peace ambassador for Canada. And I got to work with 60 different countries. So I was like, okay, ding, ding, ding. There's a light here. I'm supposed to be paying attention, and I said, I have the doors open for different countries. Bring them in, get them to share. And what people don't seem to understand is that it's all over the world. We all live with mental illness. We all live with grief. We all live with abuse. We all live with poverty. It is worldwide. That is the actual pandemic, is that humanity is worldwide. It is the pandemic. COVID was just a flag for people to wake up. Are we going to stay connected or are we going to disconnect? Are we going to get closer or are we going to divide? And it did that. It divided some people and it actually brought people together like ourselves. We would not be doing this podcast had it not been for COVID. So I say thank you to COVID. And then there's people like, Miss Liz, how can you say thank you to COVID? I'm just like, because it changed my life. And I actually got COVID. So I say thank you, COVID, because even though I got COVID, I'm still here, So it's how we look at things. And it was like my childhood, how I looked at it. I knew that the abuse was there. I knew, okay, it's not going to stop right now. It's going to continue. I knew that my marriage was bad. It was going to stop one day, and that's what COVID was. I knew COVID was bad. It was disconnecting people. And then I was like, but there's always a positive to the negative. We learned this in school. We learned this in math class. We need the negative and the positive in order to balance. So we need to look at, okay, you had a hard life. You went through all of this stuff. What positive can you bring to it? Well, I can be a voice now. I can be an advocate. I can help others who are trying to get out of situations that they might feel that they can't do it by themselves. I can be that voice. And the podcast was the best place to do it. The podcast was able to bring the education that I never got. Children's books. I love children. I wasn't a child. I didn't get to play. I want children's books on tea time. I want to be able to read those books. The clothing line, fashion, design. For all the young kids out there that couldn't be fashion designers because they had trauma in their life and people knocked them down. Well, they can listen to Tea Time and they can say, oh, I can still be a fashion designer at 50 years old. I can still be a director at 75. I can still write a children's book at 80, and a lot of
How
people,
amazing.
It's just how you look at things. And all I kept hearing during my podcast was tea. It's tea time. It's time to relax. It's time to recharge, reflect, release, and get your guests to understand their teas. Because we're so busy, we're rushing all the time that we don't understand our teas. And that's what I ask all my guests. What is your tea? Well, a lot of my guests were like, oh, I like green tea. I like berry tea. I like herbal tea. I like iced tea. And I'm like, no, we're not doing beverages. We're doing what's in you. What flavor are you bringing? Because that's your cup. You're the vessel. It's what you're putting in your body, what you're ingesting, what you're allowing, how you're talking to yourself, the self-talk. I went through a hard time and I always used to tell myself, I'm a beautiful little girl. Nobody sees me, but I'm a little girl and someday somebody will. I always had these little jingles in my mind, or if I seen things, I always made like little jokes and I was always giggling. And that was one of my nicknames growing up, was Giggles. Because I giggled all the time. I just couldn't understand people, so I started giggling. I just started humming and rocking and singing and writing, and I knew that I had to find the positive out of the negative. And that's what I did. And with Tea Time, the podcast, it's in season 5. We've done over 350 interviews. I've met over.
That's what I was gonna ask. There's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
last year was my biggest year. I did 161 shows and I didn't think I could do it. And I made intros for all of my guests, like 1-minute videos. I personalized them because that's where my creativity comes out. And it was a lot of work, but I was like, but I'm having fun. This is playtime. This is party. This is tea parties. This is what it's all about. And people hear, let's spill the tea. And when you hear that on social media, people think it's gossip. Well, when you come to Miss Liz and spill the tea, you're not getting gossip. You're getting children's books. You're getting clothing lines. You're getting grandparents. You're getting relationships. How to have healthy relationships. You're getting paranormal activity. You're getting science. You're getting everything, because Miss Liz, like Thursday, I had an interview with a real life drug dealer. Like, I wanted to understand the mindset of a drug dealer. And then in the evening, I had a woman who works from heart. She's a leader and she's works with a lot of nonprofits. That's just how many different flavors come to me.
What a contrast.
Right?
But I totally get you.
You have a little bit of everything. Like, you have unicorns and fairies and fairy dust at Miss Liz's tea parties. And a lot of people, they keep saying, well, what is Miss Liz doing? Well, Miss Liz is having fun. And I think that's what all businesses should be doing, is having fun and building those relationships, because that's what I do, is I build the relationships. Because when you come on my podcast, we talk a lot back and forth before you even get interviewed. Then during, and then right after, I'm just like, okay, how can we collaborate? How can I help you? Where can I connect you? Oh, you want another podcast? Oh, I know of a cool podcast. I'll send you to Sara. Like, Sarah's doing an awesome podcast, or Greg's got a really good one. Like, if you're really into that kind of stuff, I'll send you over there, and that's what it's all about. And that's how my business has grown, Sara, is me just connecting and collaborating with people and saying, I'm different, guys. And I'm not going to do what everybody else is doing. So,
Miss Liz, you are different, because when we spoke earlier, you're like, Sarah, what is your favorite color? So I'm going to wear this color. And that is very thoughtful. Those little details that maybe we didn't have growing up, people didn't, gave us that attention. You're giving that now, which is very powerful because you feel like, what a kind gesture. Thank you, by the way. Publicly, thank you. I appreciate you.
Well, and that's the thing, right? When we're kids, what do we get when we're kids? We get coloring books. Have you ever paid attention to the colors that you pick when you color a picture? I do that with my grandkids and my nieces and nephews. Why are you coloring it blue instead of purple? Why are you coloring that black instead of red? Well, that's my favorite color. Ooh. And why is that your favorite color? And then you get that conversation going. You get that engagement going. And that's what the tea does, Sarah, is when you ask, what is your tea? I ask my guests that. And I get them to give me 3 words that start with the T, the E, and the A. And for me, it's time travel. You're talking about the past, the present, and the future. Your T is the past, your E is the present, and your A is the future. Now, you could be saving a life with 3 words. You could be going into schools and saying, what is your T, children? What are you going to serve Miss Baker today? Well, I'm going to give you trouble. Oh boy, he had a rough night at home or something, and he didn't get enough sleep or something. I'm going to give you excuses. I didn't do my homework. I really don't want to do it. Like, it's just, and then attitude. Well, oh boy, we got some attitude coming to us today. You know what I mean? So, but it makes it fun for class and it gets you to understand. And then you can have a kid who is going through trauma, examples, bad role models at home, abuse. By words, we can save lives. We can open doors. We can open that conversation. And I do this with my grandkids all the time. I ask them, what's your tea today? And my step-granddaughter gave me Tiger's Eats apples. And my daughter was like, Mom, that's not a tea. And I said, that is a tea. And I said, Mom's going to show you what that tea does. She said tigers. Tigers are the #1 animal that is underestimated. So someone is underestimating her from the past. Eats while we were eating dinner. She was telling you what she was doing in the present moment. She was eating. Apples is a new beginning. Something on the rise. And that's the future. And she actually was wanting to do something in school, I think drama class or something. So there was an awareness of something was coming. The apple, a new beginning. She was opening a new door. Nobody knew she even liked acting, So that's just the kind of conversations that we have. And I do that with my guests. My guests give me words like tall, like I had tall, extravagant, adventurous. So why did you give me those words? Well, I'm a tall guy. Oh, well, I would have never known. You're sitting in a chair. Would have never known that you were 6'4". You could have been 5 feet like me. But it brings that conversation to the table. And that's what tea parties were all about. Was coming and having a conversation. And that's what my business is all about, is conversation, connection, community. Without those 3 C's, you can't enjoy yourselves. You can't have fun, And we really have to start putting people before profit. The profit will come when the relationship is built. You can't just walk into a room and say, hey, I'm Miss Liz. You're going to give me $1 million? I'm going to get the looks like, who the heck does she think she is? And that's what I tell everybody is I'm building a good pot of tea. And I'm meeting some really incredible people. And I'm that girl that came from being told I'd be nothing to being a voice today where people from around the globe want to sit and have tea with me. So I'm showing my past that it does not define who I am today.
That's amazing. You have, I don't even know where you find time, but you have this Business Minds Media. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Business Mind Media actually found me. I guess some of my posts that I've been putting out, and they're like, we want to do a cover story on you. And I was like, oh, you do know I only serve tea, right? I'm not like Walmart. I don't have like a big market. I don't have a clothing line or anything. I'm working on it, but I don't have all of those things. And they're like, no, we want to write a story on you because of the adversity. You coming over so much and having this mindset of business in an old style, because my old style business mind is the barter and trade. Let's work together. It's not about competing and comparing. It's let's work together. When we work together, we both celebrate. We both have a win. And my grandfather always taught me with the barter and trade, it's like making a tomato sandwich. The neighbor has the tomato, we have the bread, your aunts and uncles have the butter, the next ones have the mayo, the salt and pepper, and then we have a community. We have a party again, and we're making a sandwich. But
with collaboration.
With the collaboration of the neighbor, the aunt, the uncle, the family, the cousin down the street, and it brought people together. And back in the day, a lot of families got together. A lot of people celebrated together. Now it's hard to get anybody together because we have social media. We have the cell phones. We have the gadgets and that. So we're not having that conversation. We're texting each other and we're in the same room. What do you want for dinner? Well, let me know. All of a sudden you hear ding. Oh, that person got the message. Oh, ding, that one that got the message. Oh, and 20 minutes later, you still don't even know what you're making for dinner because everybody's still deciding because they're texting back and forth.
Yeah.
When you come to my house, you can have a cell phone, you can take a picture, you can have a nice conversation, but I want to have that conversation with you. I want to have that time.
Yeah. I actually really enjoyed browsing through your website because you have a lot of information and a lot of options. If you need this, there's a shop, there are a few things that you can actually get to. And I know you have some packages in case people would want to support, and we'll add those to the website, to the YouTube, so that if people would like to collaborate, these are available to them. But I wanted to ask you, Miss Liz, what are the things or things that you've had to quit in order to become this new you?
I had to quit the voice inside me. I had to stop second guessing myself. And when the self-doubt comes in, I have to take a moment and step back and say, whoa, are we going down that path? Or are we going down that path? We're going back to Alice in Wonderland? Or are we going to Mars? Because Mars doesn't have really much there. Alice in Wonderland has play. So we got to take that time, right? It was all about the mindset, all about how I looked at things and being authentic, just being myself and being okay with I'm different, and stop trying to pretend to be somebody I was never meant to be. What they wanted me to be was not who I was. The universe had a bigger plan for me. I question the universe all the time, Sarah. I'm just like, where are you bringing me now? Why are you bringing me this way? And then I hear this voice inside of me saying, let's just try. It might be a lesson, it might be a blessing, but it might be both at the same time. So we just got to take our time to stop what everyone else tells us, who we should be, what we should be. And especially in the business world, there's always somebody telling us how to do the business, how to serve this person, how to do that. Just follow your gut. If you're meant to collaborate with that person or work with that person, then you work with that person. If you're not meant, it's okay to say no. It's okay for people to not like your cup of tea. I tell that to everybody, Sarah. I don't want everyone liking my cup of tea. Because if everyone is liking my cup of tea, then I'm not being me. because we're not meant to be liked by everybody. We are human beings, we come imperfect, and there are things that are going to trigger or disconnect with other people. Even my tone of my voice might turn off somebody, and they'll say like, "Oh, there's that woman with that squeaky voice." You know, I'm that little mouse that's in Alice in Wonderland. You got to find the bunny rabbit. You got to go over there, like, you know. But I mean, I had to just stop being what they wanted me to be, and just be me.
Yeah. Which is very powerful, because a lot of times you're trapped and into this place where you have to pretend so much, into this place where, how am I going to share these things that make me feel shameful? And you stepped out of it, and you're definitely a successful quitter, and I'm very grateful that we had you now in this podcast. Thank you so much for the time and all of telling us your story, being so vulnerable here.
Well, and one thing that I want to mention, Sarah, about my website. If you go to the website, you'll see a lot of pictures on my website. Click the pictures, because they take you down a rabbit hole. They take you to the different websites, the different people I'm collaborating with. I'm big on celebrating everybody, because that's what a party is about. When we go to a birthday party, we celebrate the gathering. We celebrate who comes to our party, you know, who eats cake with us. We celebrate everybody. And that's what Miss Liz's website is. You'll see a lot of pictures on my website. Click the images and you'll see what rabbit hole you'll go to. And you might just be surprised. It might be a connection that might be a next guest on your podcast, Sarah. You just never know where you're going to go with those rabbit holes.
That just sounds so fun.
I wanted to make it playful, like, you know, because I didn't get to play, so now I want to play, and I wanted my website to be different. You know, a lot of people were, "Oh, we can change it." No, my website is the way that it's meant
your
to
way.
Be.
Yeah, and I loved it. I think it's also, there's so much that you can feel once you go on it, that there's so much being given. Can you please state the name of the website so that people can go and look at it?
It's www.misslizsteatime.com. There's no S on tea time. Or you can put in the old domain, what is www.misslizsteaparties.com, and it will bring you to the website, because I have both of them still.
Wonderful. And you do have Instagram and all that good stuff. Any other platforms that you'd want to bring up so that people follow you there as well?
I like I tell everybody, Miss Liz is on almost every platform out there. If you don't find me, it's because you're not looking for Miss Liz, and that's okay. But I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Rumble, Sproutable, Mastodon. I'm on a lot of different ones. I'm even on Reddit. I try to be on different platforms for one reason and one reason only, is because there's different people, and there's different people I can play with and have fun with. You know, because sometimes we connect with people online that they just need to hear hi. And you might change a life just by saying hi. And 5 years down the road, that person will come back and say, "Thank you for giving me that hi."
That's very nice. That's very nice. And it is a thing to keep up with so many platforms. So guys, go and find her, please. Find all of the resources that she's providing, and go listen to the podcast as well. Well, Miss Liz, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Check out the YouTube channel. Give it a good, quick subscribe, and you can watch over 350 different tea times. And there's a lot of different flavors. And leave your feedback, because I always like to hear what you guys have to say about tea time.
Please do. And thank you guys so much for watching another episode or listening to it again of Successful Quitters. I am your host, Sara Nunez Bee, and we'll see you on the next